Hello and welcome to the latest edition of Bev's Talks. I'm Bev Short and I'm your host, and I'm a holistic health coach for midlife women based in Wellington, New Zealand. Now, Bev's Talks is a video series designed to highlight the work of amazing women from all over the world who are doing work with and for other women. And today I'm joined by the wonderful Jennifer Adams from Brisbane in Australia. Welcome, Jenny.
Well, hello, Bev. How are you?
I'm very good, thanks. Lovely to have you here. Now, Jennifer has written a book entitled Sleeping Apart, Not Falling Apart: How to Get a Good Night's Sleep and Keep Your Relationship Alive. Now, Jenny's actually a teacher by trade, and she works in the education sector as a change and communications manager. So, Jenny, how did you become an expert on sleep? Enough so that you could write a book about it?
Well, it all started when my husband moved into my house. We'd only been going out each other for a few months, and it just happened that he moved in after about 4 or 5 months. So still in the throes of an early relationship. And of course, what do you do when you move in with your partner? You set up a bedroom together. So he moved into my bed, into my bedroom, and within a week, both of us were absolutely exhausted because we weren't sleeping, predominantly because of his snoring. So his snoring kept me awake, and he was aware that his snoring was keeping me awake. So we then decided for a couple of weeks just to sleep together on the weekends, but again, that was ruining our weekends. So we made a decision pretty quickly in the relationship that we were going to sleep in separate bedrooms. So for us, it was a very practical decision. I think we're both very practical people, but the response and the reaction to it was really quite amazing. And everyone was raising their eyebrows or furrowing their brows and thinking, well, your relationship's over. How can you possibly be in this new relationship and sleeping in separate beds? So for me, I knew that it wasn't an issue for us, so everything else was absolutely fine in the relationship, and we were getting enough sleep. So that was really critical to both of us. And in terms of prioritising what we need in our relationship and what we needed for ourselves, we both needed sleep. So as I said, it was a very kind of easy decision for us, even though it was a little bit sad that we weren't going to be sharing a bed every night. But we both realised that we'd rather have the cuddles in the evening and in the morning, and in the middle part when you're asleep, just sleep. So anyway, that was back in 2005. And then for the years that followed, I would be quite open about it and explain that we slept separately. And just over the years, I had so many interesting conversations, and it was predominantly with women. There were some men about my situation. And there were 3 main responses. There were people who had the response of, that's really terrible, your relationship must be in trouble. But then there were people who were like, wow, what a fantastic idea. I wish I could do that. I can't sleep with my partner. He or she snores, or they thrash around, or it's terrible. I wish I could do that. And then there were the people who secretly went, I do that too, but I don't tell anyone about it. And it just really kind of piqued my interest over the time. And then I started to come across people who were sleep deprived and feeling really trapped in the situation they were in. And this was predominantly women, and it still remains predominantly women, who feel that they have to sleep with their husband or their boyfriend because that's what happy couples do. They sleep in the same bed every night. It's the pervasive and predominant image in our media that happy couples do that, couples that are in trouble don't. So in these conversations, one time I spoke to a lady who was building a house, and she slept separately, but it was a big secret from everyone, but they were building 2 master bedrooms, and she was having to come out about it. So she talked to me quite a lot about how I managed it and about her thought processes, why she was so embarrassed about it. And at the end of our conversations, and when she'd started to tell people, she said to me, you should write a book about this. She said, there are so many women out there who would like to be sleeping separately. They don't know why, they don't know how they can potentially deal with any of the backlash, and they don't understand the importance of sleep. So the idea was there for quite a while in my head, and then one day I just thought, you know what, I'm going to do this. And so I had a little bit of an epiphany about how I would like to write the book, and so that set me off, and it took me about 2 to 3 years to write the book. and it was really based on a lot of research. So in terms of the aspect of sleep and the understanding of why we need sleep and what sleep does to our bodies, that just came through months and months and months of research and talking with professionals. So I consulted psychologists, I talked to doctors about really that criticality of sleep in our lives, what it does if what happens if you don't get enough sleep. But more importantly, and I think what's really interesting recently, is the research around the benefits of sleep. So we know that we're rested and we're able to cope more, but there's a lot of information, a lot of really exciting research at the moment around what good restorative deep sleep and what it can do to the brain. So it does a lot of cleaning out of the brain, and it takes care. So your brain goes into maintenance mode when you're sleeping. So my passion is to continue that conversation, to say, here is a really, really critical part of your health, and people are prepared to sacrifice that for the sake of meeting a social norm, or doing something that they believe should be done to please their partner or please other people in their lives. So that's how I end up writing the book, and I've continued to blog, and I want to keep the conversation going until it's not a conversation anymore.
Well, I find it really interesting. I mean, I was with a bunch of women yesterday, and I said that I was going to be interviewing you about this today. And I would say probably half of them threw their arms up in the air and gone, oh, I wish I could do that, as in sleep separately from their partner. And I think, well, why can't you? And there's this huge stigma around it. But what's interesting is what you were saying about the research about sleep. Now, as a health coach, sleep's a big part of what I talk to people about and try and get them into a really good sleep regime, because I know the importance of balancing hormones and things like that. But and I know that, for example, during the night, at certain times your body is healing, so your brain goes through the same thing then as well. I'm assuming from what you've said. But people underestimate how much sleep they need, don't they, for optimum health and wellness. So this isn't just a snoring issue, is it?
No, definitely not. And I think that the conversation in the media is changing to say, look, sleep isn't something that happens if it fits in, or as down in terms of the prioritizing, like you just happen to go to bed and sleep. You actually have to prioritize it. You've got to raise it up in your life, and you have to say, this is important, that I not only get to sleep and get to bed every night, but that I have good quality sleep. And that's part of the conversation that's changing, is this whole concept of good quality sleep. As much as, and we chatted a little earlier about Gwyneth Paltrow, and she's brought out this clean sleeping as one of her priorities for 2017. And last year, Ariana Huffington wrote her book about sleep and the importance of sleep. And I'm completely behind these people. If there are big names out there that are raising the profile of why sleep is so important, then great, more power to them, and more power to people who start to actually see, well, this is part of how I keep myself healthy. This is part of my daily routine. As I eat well, I exercise, and I make sure I get good sleep. And so getting that up there in people's consciousness, where, if it's Gwyneth, good on you, Gwyneth. I think that's a, important part. And I've forgotten the second part of your question.
Oh gosh, I've forgotten the second part of my question as well. Never mind. Okay.
So I suppose the thing is just that in terms of how you prioritize it, that's the thing that you wish you could go into people's homes and walk them through that whole concept of what's so important about that social construct of sleeping with your partner every night. And I know that there are some couples who absolutely love it, and it's the cornerstone of their relationship, and that's what we're talking about, is more than snoring, and that's and that's really important, and if it works for you, it's fine. But if that used to be okay, and look, and I've shared my bedroom with many boyfriends before that. I've lived with boyfriends, and it hasn't been an issue. But as we age, our bodies change, which and a lot of your listeners, your viewers would know that. And the problem is, men overrepresent in snoring. they overrepresent also in moving during the night. So, and also as we sleep, we need to urinate more during the evening. Or during our sleep phases, and there is study around a bunch of neurons in the brain that start to fail as we get older, which means that we sleep less anyway. So while you've got this, and women do need more sleep than men, that's just a scientific fact. There's absolutely, I think it's only like about 20 minutes a night extra more. The reason being that our brains are a little more active, so we need more time to get our brains back in order for each day. So we need more sleep, but what we have is we start to sleep, our sleep quality starts to decrease before men's does, and therefore you've got a snoring partner, you've got a partner who is moving around. You may be also then dealing with different bedtimes. Also, as we age, we start to get a little more, probably a little less tolerant of conditions in our room not being exactly how we need them. So if we're heading into insomnia, even episodic insomnia, where you're just going through a stressful period and you have to have your room in a particular state, the combination of all of these things coming together, and you're going to bed at night and you might be stressed, your husband's already in bed or your husband's up watching something on television, they come in and disturb you, you wake up, you can't go back to sleep, they're getting up and down during the night, you're getting up and down during the night. So while snoring is absolutely by far and away the greatest disruptor in a bedroom, all of those other conditions that start to present more and more as you age start to impact on that priority that should be, I need a good night's sleep. So it's certainly not a simple problem, and there's no simple solution beyond saying, and I recommend to people they even do a little bit of a sleep inventory and say, well, okay, how much sleep do I need? And the way that you can tell that you've got enough sleep is you feel rested the next day. And it's as simple as that. And lots of, I do work with Dr. Neil Stanley, who is a sleep researcher over in the UK. And he contributed to the second edition of the book. And that's what he said. It really is as simple as that. If you feel rested and you feel like you're capable, your emotions are under control, you feel physically fit and ready to take the next day, then you've had enough sleep. And how much sleep you need depends, and it is genetically programmed into you, same as, you know, larks and owls. So you go to bed early and wake up early, or you go to bed late and wake up later in the morning. It's very, very difficult to change that. And again, when we're younger, we're less aware of these changes and these differences in us. But as we get older and our lives become a little more quieter, and we're not out and we're not drinking and we're not out at nightclubs and doing all those sorts of things, and we're just in this kind of almost the boring rhythm of life, if you do have a partner who comes to bed 2 hours after you and wakes you up every night, and then as you get older, it starts to then keep you awake, well, that's a bit of a problem. And so just because you could do something 10 years ago, 20 years ago, you know, in your relationship, and I do liken it to when couples decide, okay, I'm going to change my diet, I'm going to change my health routine. You know, you can't expect that your relationship is going to be exactly the same all the way through. Your needs are going to change, your priorities are going to change. And so with all of those things bundled together, what do you do when you do get, you know, a little bit later in life, in the late 40s, early 50s? And that tends to be where women are starting to talk more and more about wanting to sleep separately. What do you then do? You know, and my answer is you start to have a conversation with your partner, with other people, start saying, well, okay, how do we fix this? And sleeping apart is not a black or white decision. It's not like one night you're sleeping in the bed with your partner and then the next night you're in a separate room and you never see each other again. It can be a sometimes arrangement. It can be, look, I'm absolutely exhausted, I haven't slept very well for 2 or 3 nights, so I'm going to pop into the spare room for the next couple of nights so I can catch up on my sleep. And again, the science tells us that we can catch up. We can have a nap during the day, which is okay, but we can, and 2 to 3 nights of really good quality sleep that the length that you need will help you manage a few nights of sleeplessness. So that's a great feature that we have built into our bodies. And so that whole concept of doing it separately to your partner might be something as part of your sleep inventory, and having a look at everything you need, start to become a way that you manage a new way of getting sleep every night.
So it's interesting what you said about women, you know, in their 40s and 50s, start noticing things more and want to change things more. You know, I mean, this is when we're going through perimenopause. And I mean, this is exactly, you know, what I talk to people about every day. And your hormones are changing, everything's changing, and there's so many different things that are disturbing your sleep before you even get into bed with somebody who's being noisy. And I mean, I can only speak for myself. I mean, I can't even sleep with somebody who breathes. You know?
Breathing, Bev, breathing is one of the issues. Seriously, I'm serious. That's one of the issues. I talked to two couples that, yeah, the breathing, loud breathing, so their partner would roll over and would sleep with their mouth open.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yep, you're not alone.
Just breathing deeply is just like, it just keeps me awake. I have to have absolute silence to sleep. If I haven't got silence, I can't sleep. And I need a lot of sleep. So if I don't get it, I'm a mess.
Yes.
Absolutely. And I feel physically unwell and I can't think the next day. I have to sleep. And I've made it, as I've got older, a huge priority in my life. You know, alcohol really affects how you sleep.
Yes.
So, you know, I make the choice. Do I want to have a couple of glasses of wine and sleep really badly, you know, feel like crap the next day, or do I not? You know, but I mean, I sleep on my own anyway, so I can do the starfish all night, every night. But getting back to your own experience of not sleeping with your own husband, I mean, what are the general attitudes of women towards, you know, what you advocate?
It's really interesting, and it does range from that, gee, I'd like to do that, and I know a couple of people, since they've either read my book or have known me, have made the decision to do that, through to pity, which of course I don't.
Pity? Did you say pity?
Pity, yeah, they feel sorry for me that I can't sleep with my husband, and that's really sad. And I
dear.
I know, neither sort of, I don't seek or I don't need their pity, and I don't want it because I don't feel like I need pity.
Yeah.
Through to anger, to be honest, and the anger comes from a lot of people online, that I am a bad wife, that, you know, either me or my husband or both of us are obviously really bad in bed, which obviously means having sex, and that we have got a sham of a relationship because we don't share a bed every night. Which of course at the end where you think, okay, you don't actually know what you're talking about. I think when people react like that, my guess is that comes from a place of fear, that it's quite challenging for them. And you know, as I said before, it's about owning what works for you. I have, you know, no issue. I'm not advocating that every single person needs to sleep separately. That is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if you are sacrificing your health for the sake of a social construct, that has only happened since the Industrial Revolution. Prior to the Industrial Revolution, sleeping in the same bed wasn't an issue. You know, you go back centuries and it was group sleeping. So everyone kind of slept wherever they wanted to. When you met somewhere in a bed essentially to have sex, but you didn't sleep together. And I mean, look at royalty. Royalty don't sleep together.
Well, I was going to say that. I was going to say, doesn't the Queen and Prince, whatever he's called,
and many royal couples, a lot of very, very wealthy people don't sleep in the same room. They've so there's this bit in the middle of people who have caught up in, and it is a social construct. So the Industrial Revolution, we all went into the cities and we were living in these smaller individual houses. And it was fantastic. You could go and you could sleep with your partner every single night, and that was great. But you were also forced to sleep with your partner every single night. So the choice was taken away. Whereas with the group sleep, you could kind of, if someone next to you was snoring or keeping you awake, you probably just go to another part of the hut or the building or wherever it was. So there was a lot more choice there. The other thing to note, Bev, is that it's a Western culture construct as well. African, Asians, they really don't care. They're not as caught up in it as we are. There's marriages in China, a particular type of marriage where you don't live together, and there's no shame in it. Japanese, of course, they've got different challenges around their space, and they do a lot of group sleeping and family sleeping. And the sex hotels, I mean, they're accepted as a part of culture over there, is that couples, because they have to share their spaces for sleeping, they book into a sex hotel for an hour and they go there and they have sex, and so there's no shame in it. It's just part of what you do. So the cultural construct around it, and it really is exacerbated by the media. So just recently there was a DJ, a commercial DJ over here, who admitted that he sleeps separately. And a guy Sebastian, I don't know if you guys have heard of Guy Sebastian, he's a singer over here. And when they both come out to say that they slept separately, so the DJ said he did it all the time, the singer Guy Sebastian said he just does it when he needs to be rested to sing for concerts. Weird. The word is weird. Strange sleeping arrangements, weird sleeping arrangements. And the furor that comes out, that's, oh, this is so bizarre, who would do this? So this message is being reinforced all the time, or it's seen as a failure. I remember when Kim and Kanye, God bless the Kardashians, they came out and admitted that they slept separately. And Kanye said it was because when Kim was pregnant, she wasn't sleeping very well. He was working, he needed his sleep. Well, that was it. Their relationship was over. That was the end. And so this is the response that you get from people, through to, yes, I do that too, it's a sensible decision, to, my God, I'd love to, but my husband would never allow me, through to, I'm doing it as a secret, or all the way through to, well, there's something wrong with you. There's something wrong with your relationship. There's absolutely nothing wrong with my relationship.
Which, of course, is absolute balderdash, isn't it?
It's just different. It's that whole thing. It's not wrong, just different.
So now I know, Jenny, that there's lots of books on sleep out there. You could probably go and buy a whole library of books on sleep, but you are the only person that's written a book about sleeping apart from your partner. Isn't that right?
I am.
So you were also challenged once, how on earth could you write a whole book on the subject? But there's other stuff in there, isn't it? I mean, it's a very practical book. So tell us a little bit about that.
So yeah, the book very much goes through and looks at understanding why we need sleep, which, back in 2013, it wasn't quite as prominent in the media, but there's certainly that whole understanding. And I think once you understand why, a bit like a lot of the work that you do with your clients, Bev, once they understand why they need to do particular things for their health, that's your justification, that's your cue to change your habits, is that understanding of why. So I try to explain to people why sleep is so important, and what the understanding yourself, things like understanding that if you are a lark, you're a lark, and that's it. You are genetically programmed to go to bed late. So if you are forcing yourself to go to bed early so that you don't disturb your partner, nobody's winning out of that. So I explain that. Then I go through what can actually happen in it. What happens when we cohabitate to bed? We go to bed every night, and there's all sorts of issues around why it's good and why it's bad. And so look at that, and then I start going into the practicalities of how you can look at separate sleeping, as I said earlier, right from the gamut of maybe once or twice going separate sleeping, sometimes sleeping separately, so arranging yourself so that how you organise the relationship so that you do it sometimes, right through to going through and having a completely separate room. A few people that I interviewed, one of the big challenges that sometimes people find is space in their house. So I interviewed a few couples who invested in a really good couch. And so they have arrangements, and one of them sleeps on the couch and one of them sleeps, because some couches these days, they're great fold-out beds, or you don't even need the fold-out bed part. So coming up with those sorts of solutions. The other thing I provide advice around is how do you manage it in terms of talking to people about it, feeling, the judgment, and how you can manage that. A really critical part of the conversation is how do you talk to your partner about it? If they're not agreeing that they want to sleep separately, how do you negotiate? Because there's compromise and consensus, and sometimes the compromise, consensus is always going to be your best outcome, but what we don't want is sacrifice. And so, you know, I look at sacrifice, compromise and consensus in a relationship. So how could I talk to my partner about that, and how can I manage how I'm feeling about that? And I was really lucky to have a great consultant psychologist work on those chapters with me. So it's not just Jenny Adams, the changing comms person. So that was done with a really good psychologist. So yeah, so it really does cover that whole gamut of the why. You know, how am I going to do this, and how am I going to manage what people think, and how am I going to manage how I'm thinking about it and feeling good and confident that actually I've made a good decision. So, you know, that's what I aim, that people can read through the book and then go, okay, I've got a plan now. I know who I'm going to talk to. I know what I'm going to do, what I'm going to say to my partner. And it does get down to very practical examples about how you can politely explain to them that they are disturbing you. So rather than waking up like a shrew in the morning and screaming at them that, you know, you can't stand there snoring one more minute, I'd give some practical examples about maybe some different ways of doing that, so that you can take the heat out of the conversation. And that's the thing, if you're sleep deprived, you're not going to have the skills, or very good skills to...
So tell me, Jenny, smothering your partner with a pillow is not one of the things that's recommended then?
No, it's not. And you know, again, in a Western culture construct, you might find yourself on the wrong side of the law. Okay, if you're in a Middle Eastern country, not sure. But yeah, that's exactly right. And, you know, it's a real pity that people put themselves in such a precarious position in their relationship. Because when you're sleep deprived, as you said earlier, you're not the best version of yourself by any stretch of the imagination. So you're having to deal with life, potentially with kids, with the job, and then with a relationship that might be falling apart. You know, and you're so tired, you're not doing it very well. And that's the bit where you know, I'll be honest, I do struggle, and I think, wow, if you could just take yourself off to a room for a few nights, get some good sleep, and then start negotiating a new way to do your relationship. Interestingly enough, I've spoken to lots of men about why they are so anti their partners leaving the bed, and it's I've never really heard a really... not convincing is not the word, but they find it hard to articulate why they don't want theirs. I have a very good friend whose wife barely sleeps, and he snores really loud, and he knows that she gets up every night and goes onto a couch, but he does not want her to not sleep in the same bed with him. He says,
gosh,
I want my wife next to me.
I would say, gosh, you selfish pig.
Primal thing, I don't know, a safety, a protection. For some people, certainly, some men said, well, if I tell my friends that my wife's not sleeping in the same bed as me, it means we're not having sex. You know, that whole euphemism of, are you sleeping with them yet, I think has blurred the lines between sleep and sex. We're too prudish to say, have you started having sex yet? So we euphemize it and say, you know, you're sleeping with them. So, you know, we think if we're not sleeping in the same bed with their partner, how can we possibly be having sex with them? Which is the biggest load of bollocks out.
Of course it is. Now, tell me, I understand that if people go to your website, now that's called Sleeping Apart, Not Falling Apart, isn't it?
It is, yes.
Okay, so if people go to your website, they can actually can they read a chapter on your site, or do they have to download it? How does it work?
So there's chapter 3, which is looks at the issues that people can have in bed together. So you might be able to go and read that and say, hey, that's the problem I'm having, and you know that you're not alone. And I think that's one of the other really big pieces of feedback, is people like to know that it's not them that is doing this alone. They can, well, the book is the chapter is there as a PDF, so you can read it on the screen. You're very, very welcome to download it and print it out and take it to bed and read it if you want to do it in hard copy, because of course we know that reading devices in bed at night is not good to promote sleep. Indeed. So yeah, so they're very welcome to go there. The other, I have also a couple of sections on there. There's a section about media, which is lists the interviews that I've had and some of the articles that I've been involved in, but also on there is news and links. And if you ever wanted to feel like you're not alone if you want a separate sleep or you are separate sleeping. I keep and track all the articles from across the globe about separate sleeping. It's a really big topic there is not a month goes by that there isn't 3 or 4 articles around the world about separate sleeping. People are desperate to know that other people are having the problems, that other people have got the solutions, and that other people are sleeping separately like they are as well. So if you do want to feel that you're part of hundreds of thousands, probably millions of people across the world, go and check out the news and links page and click through some of those articles that are up there. But also, as I said, there's the articles and the interviews that I've done in the media section too. And I blog. The front page is my blog where I write down my thoughts, and it's not just about separate sleeping as such. It's about those challenging parts of a relationship. Certainly what's been dancing across my mind recently is how relationships change and how your changing needs can be met within a relationship, and how you can negotiate with your partner about how you might start doing some things differently. As I said, I think that there's you're very lucky if you and your partner stay on the same page all the time. But to be able to negotiate and communicate with your partner and start saying, look, because some of the people who write to me, that was prompted by a couple of people who wrote to me whose partners were, and almost husbands were refusing to let them sleep separately, and they were just at their wits' end, and
Wow.
Which I find so hard, threatened with divorce if they want to go and move into a separate room. That's a book well beyond mine.
I was going to say that's probably another whole episode altogether, and I'd be going, oh, well, I would just say, okay, well, if you're going to be like that, then I'll have the divorce, please. Thanks very much. Anyway, people can also find you on Facebook, can't they, Jim?
Yes.
You've got a Facebook page or something?
I do have a Facebook page, again, Sleeping Apart, Not Falling Apart. So you can check that out there. So, and there I just share lots of articles that I find, and I link through to my blog. So try to put up much information as possible, let people investigate the topic, and people can make contact with me through my website. So there's a contact form there, or pop me an email. There's quite a few people who email me asking advice, and I'll just provide links to pages that I think are relevant, or I'll provide my own advice as much as I can provide it.
Well, that's wonderful, Jenny. Thanks so much for coming on. It's been really, really interesting, and to have a subject that's not talked about very often because, as you say, of societal norms and taboos and all that kind of stuff. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Look, as I said, get the message out there, and until it's a non-message anymore, until people are just realising that it's a great option and nobody's judging them. So don't know if and when that will happen, but until it does, I shall keep getting my message out there.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks. And thanks ever so much, everybody, for watching. It's been great to have you here. And that's Jennifer Adams, Sleeping Apart, Not Falling Apart. And I'm Bev Short. And my website is fitnessforwomen.co.nz. Anyway, I'll see you next time. Thanks, Jenny. Bye.
Thanks, Bev. Bye.
Bye.